Welcome to Story Time. We're on chapter 2 from the Mahabharata, the story of the Pandavas and the Kauravas. I'm so glad you're here. As the Pandavas grow in wisdom and virtue, the Kauravas grow in rivalry, envy, and hostility, laying the groundwork for a war none could yet imagine. In the ancient kingdom of Hastinapur, the stage was set for a story of destiny, duty, and the eternal struggle between virtue and desire. At the heart of this tale are two families, each embodying different paths of dharma, the righteous, duty-bound Pandavas and the ambitious, envy-driven Kauravas. Kunti, whom we met last month as a child, in this chapter of our story, we find her as a woman of grace and quiet strength and even wisdom. She navigates the delicate balance of devotion, courage, maternal love, giving birth to the Pandavas through divine intervention. Her secret firstborn, Karna, whom we learned of last month, represents the complexities of fate and loyalty, while King Pandu's 5 sons, Yudhisthira, Bhima, Arjuna, Nakula, and Sahadeva, grow under the guidance of sages and the protective embrace of their mothers. Destined to uphold justice and righteousness. As shared last time, the Mahabharata contains hundreds of characters, giving you a glimpse already, from gods to commoners, both men and women, including wise sages, numerous siblings, family members, and friends. To begin today's story, let me highlight the main characters from today's edition of the story. I've organized them into 3 groups in hopes that this helps you make sense of the numerous characters. Or this grouping helps to highlight the family and moral alignment, Pandavas versus Kauravas. I likened this to the Shakespearean families of the Capulets and the Montagues. Secondly, it gives us the roles of guidance and mentorship through the sages and divine influences that shape the dharmic growth of our characters. And it also introduces the complex moral tension, with Karna serving as the bridge between 2 worlds. So first, Pandavas and their family represent righteous lineage and the Dharma focus. This includes Kunti, King Pandu, Queen Madri, Kunti's sons, Yudhisthira, Bhima, and Arjuna, and Madri's twins, Nakula and Sahadeva, and of course, Karna, Kunti's firstborn. Kunti is the mother of the Pandavas. She's graceful, courageous, and very Dharma focused. Her husband, King Pandu, is the father of the Pandavas, through, of course, divine invocation that we'll learn about soon. Queen Madri is Pandu's second wife. She's the mother of twins, Nakula and Sahadeva. Yudhisthira is the eldest Pandava, and he embodies justice and virtue. Bhima is the second Pandava, embodying strength, courage, and loyalty. And Arjuna is our third Pandava. He is a master archer, he's disciplined and righteous, and he will play a leading role in the Mahabharata, as we will see as our story unfolds. And finally, Nakula and Sahadeva, the twins, embody grace, wisdom, and dharmic service. And finally, we have Karna, Kunti's firstborn, an unknown elder to Yudhishthira and the Pandu clan, as he was raised by adoptive parents. He embodies moral complexity and the tension between fate and choice. The second grouping here is the Kauravas and their family, which represents ego and ambition, and include King Dhritarashtra, Queen Gandhari, 100 brothers, including Duryodhana, and one unnamed sister, and finally, Uncle Shakuni. Dhritarashtra is the blind king of Hastinapur, brother of the rightful king Pandu, and father of the Kauravas. He struggles with an attachment to his firstborn son. Queen Gandhari is the wife of Dhritarashtra and embodies disciplined control and devotion, yet also remains detached from reality by choosing to live blindfoldedly. Then we've got the 100 brothers and one sister, Dhritarashtra and Gandhari's children. Collectively, they embody a clan of loyalty and rivalry, with our main attention on Duryodhana, the eldest of the 101 children. Kaurava family is ambitious, envious, and prone to cruelty. And finally, we have Uncle Shakuni. This is Queen Gandhari's brother. He is manipulative and fuels Duryodhana's ambition and jealousy. Third group is our mentors, guides, and the divine influences on our characters. First, we've got the gods that have been summoned by Kunti and give birth to numerous divine children. There's Dharmajaraj, who gives birth to Yudhishthira. Vayu gives birth to Bhima. Indra to Arjuna. Ashwini fathers Nakula and Sahadeva, the twins. And Surya, the sun god, is the provider, the father of Karna. Now, Bhishma is the grandfather to both the Pandavas and the Kauravas. He's wise, disciplined, and sees the dharmic paths clearly, even has visionary qualities. Then we have Kripa and Drona. These are gurus. They are tasked with educating the princes on both sides of the family in the sacred texts, weaponry, and strategy. Vyasa is a sage. He assists in the birth of the Gandhari's 101 children and guides events according to cosmic order. In other words, he plays a key role in making this battle come to fruition. There's a few other supporting characters. Vasudeva, who is Krishna's earthly father, and he's connected to the Pandavas by blood relation. Then we've got Vindur, who is the uncle and wise counselor. He's morally astute voice in the royal court. And then we've got the river goddess Ganga, who is the mother of Bhishma, grandpa, and a divine influence on dharmic lineage. So now that we've had a whirlwind tour of the characters, let's get to today's story. Today's story, the birth of rivalry, the Pandavas and the Kauravas. Years passed as Karna grew to be a sweet and energetic little boy raised by his loving adoptive parents. Kunti became a graceful young woman and married King Pandu of Hastinapur. Similar to other cultures around the world, Indian kings could marry more than one wife at this time in history. As such, along with Kunti, Panda married another princess named Madri. Before the newlyweds could settle down together, however, King Pandu set off to fight a war against the neighboring kingdoms. When he returned, Pandu was tired and wanted to go to the forest to rest with his wives. He asked his blind older brother, Dhritarashtra, to rule in his place during his absence. It was meant to be temporary. Dhritarashtra's wife, Gandhari, would then be Queen Gandhari. Although she had good vision, she wore a blindfold refusing to see the world that her husband could not see. Dhritarashtra happily agreed to become king. Secretly, he hoped that Pandu would stay away forever. Dhritarashtra wanted one of his own sons to inherit the throne. King Pandu and his wives lived a tranquil life together in the forest. But alas, their bliss was short-lived. While out hunting one morning, King Pandu took aim at a pair of deer, killing the doe. Unbeknownst to the king, the two deer were actually a sage and his wife in disguise. Horrified, Pandu watched as the doe changed into the body of a dead woman, while her mate transformed into the figure of a sage. "I am so sorry. I am so terribly sorry," Pandu kept saying. But the sage was distraught with grief and cursed Pandu. "I will never again feel my wife's tender embrace," he said. "As punishment, the moment you embrace your wives, you too will die." Pandu told Kunti and Madri the terrible news. "I love you both, but I can never touch you again," he said. "We will never have children together." Kunti was quiet for a while, remembering Surya, the sun god, swooping down from the sky with a baby in his arms. Karna. She thought to herself, "This time I am ready to care for a baby." She told Pandu about the secret mantra for inviting the gods, and he readily agreed to let her try. Kunti used the mantra to summon Dharmaraj, Lord of Dharma and Justice, who gave her a son, Yudhishthira. After some time, Kunti summoned Pavan, or Vayu, the mighty god of wind, and he gave her a son, Bhima. Yet again, a few years later, Pandu said to Kunti, "Let us have another child. Please use your sacred mantra again." Kunti whispered the sacred mantra, inviting Indra, god of thunderstorms, and with a bolt of lightning, a beautiful baby boy appeared in her lap. A booming voice filled the air, the voice of Indra himself. "This is Arjuna, my son. He will grow strong and fearless and will conquer the forces of evil." Pandu and Kanti were delighted with their handsome new baby. Kanti taught the mantra to Madri as well, who received 2 more sons for King Pandu, the twins Nakula and Sahadeva, from Ashwini, god of beauty and grace. The 5 boys grew strong and brave and courteous. They became known as the Pandava brothers. Venerable sages taught them the sacred texts and the God-given laws of Dharma so that they would become wise rulers. Knowing that the brothers were destined to fight the forces of evil, the sages also gave them lessons in weaponry and military strategy. Arjuna, in particular, showed an early talent and passion for archery. Kanti adored her 5 sons, but she had long kept a secret from Pandu. She had never told him about the son she had given away when she was 12. After setting that child afloat in a river, she had always wondered and worried about him. For now, however, she was the happy mother of 5 beautiful boys. Meanwhile, in the palace of Hastinapur, Dhritarashtra's wife, Queen Gandhari, also became pregnant. Her pregnancy, however, lasted for 2 long years. When she finally gave birth, it was not a baby, but rather a strange round object that was as hard as iron and as hot as burning coal. She lamented bitterly, sure that she would never bear a child. Dhritarashtra's grandfather, sage Vyasa, heard Gandhari weeping and came to console her. "I can help," he said. "Do not worry." In a secret chamber, he filled 101 earthen pots with a magic potion. Then he broke the same object, birthed by Queen Gandhari, into 101 pieces and dropped them one by one into the pots. He covered the pots with tight lids and instructed that no one should disturb the pots, lift up the lids, or even step into the secret chamber for the next 2 years. 2 years later, hearing a huge commotion, Gandhari, Dhritarashtra, his younger brother Vidor, and the grandfather of the entire clan, Bhishma, rushed into the secret chamber. The pots were rolling and crashing about, and the air was filled with sounds of whimpering and cooing. Because of her blindfold, Gandhari could not see the source of all of the uproar. So imagine her joy when grandfather Bhishma told her that the room held 100 baby boys and 1 baby girl, with the drops of magic potion still glistening on their soft skin. He congratulated Dhritarashtra and Gandhari on continuing the lineage of their ancestor Kuru by becoming parent to these 101 children, all members of the Kaurava clan. Then one of the babies began to scream. His face twisted with rage. Red sparks flew from his eyes and ears and mouth. Black crows circled above his broken pot, and wolves licked their chops nearby. Grandfather Bhishma knew that wolves and crows were bad omens. He warned Gandhari and Dhritarashtra, saying, "You must send this one away to grandfather Vyasa. He will know how to raise him well." But the king and queen ignored his advice. The baby seemed strong. Surely he would be the one to inherit the throne. They named him Duryodhana and lavished him with attention. "Duryodhana is our crown prince," Dhritarashtra loved saying. "We will keep him." As Bhishma feared, Duryodhana proved to be a nasty little boy. He wrapped his parents around his little finger while they spoiled him shamelessly. When he got his own way, he seemed nice enough, but woe to anyone who crossed him. All the maids and servants, and his 99 brothers and his sister, lived in fear of his cruel tricks. In contrast, the Pandava brothers lived in harmony. The younger boys always minded Yudhishthira, their eldest brother, and they were all devoted lovingly to their parents. They studied the sacred texts together and learned the basic skills of hunting and self-defense. They were respectful of and obedient to their parents and tutors. In a few years, however, both King Pandu and Queen Mandri died. Kunti and her children had to leave their forest home and went to live in the palace of Hastinapur. Dhritarashtra hated having his nephews in court, especially Yudhishthira, who, as the eldest, actually stood to inherit the throne. Prince Duryodhana, of course, detested his 5 cousins and hated the fact that grandfather Bhishma was actually fond of the Pandavas. Queen Gandhari's cunning brother Shakuni fanned the flames of hatred and jealousy in his nephew Duryodhana's heart, encouraging his greed and envy. "Forget the Pandavas, just listen to me," he told Duryodhana. "You should be king, and your mother should take her rightful place as queen mother." Duryodhana constantly squabbled with his cousins, and fights broke out regularly. It was certainly a good thing that the Pandava brothers were well trained in the arts of self-defense. The sages, their teachers, Kripa and Drona, were in charge of educating both the Pandavas and the Kauravas. They soon, however, noted that the Pandavas were gifted with divine abilities. Arjuna, in particular, excelled as an archer. Impressed with Arjuna's passion for archery, Drona decided to test the boy's ability. He tied a clay bird to a tree and then said to all the boys, "You must shoot the bird's eye. But first, tell me what you see." "I see branches," said one boy. "I see leaves," said another. "We see the bird's tails and feathers." Several of the other boys shouted out at once. But Drona asked Arjuna, "What do you see, Arjuna?" Arjuna answered, "I see only the bird's eye." With a single graceful motion, he selected the thinnest arrow from his quiver, pulled back, and took aim. The arrow flew effortlessly to the exact middle of the bird's eye. The brothers and cousins gasped in astonishment. "Well done," said Guru Drona. Grandfather Bhishma also noted that Arjuna was quite different from all the other princes. He was kind and gentle, though he was born to be a warrior who would eventually vanquish evil. As the son of the river goddess Ganga and Shantanu, the former king of Hastinapur, Bhishma himself was half human and half divine, and had spent his childhood in heaven. He could foresee the future, and he knew that the forces of evil were building on earth. Bhishma had vowed in his youth that he would never inherit the throne, would never marry, and would never produce an heir. He had also vowed to selflessly and faithfully serve the throne of Hastinapur, whoever was the king. He had not considered the possibility that someone as greedy as Dhritarashtra would be king one day, or that he would groom his nasty son Duryodhana as crown prince. Now, as grandfather to both the Pandavas and the Kauravas, Bhishma could see into the hearts and minds of those around him. He knew that Yudhishthira, the eldest of the Pandava five, would rule with justice. But he also knew that Duryodhana would do anything within his power to be the next king. He would even kill members of his own family. Bhishma grew very fond of the Pandavas and took particular interest in grooming Arjuna, who would play a defining role in the war of good versus evil. Having received a number of powerful sacred weapons as gifts from his heavenly home, Bhishma took pains to teach Arjuna how to use them. Bhishma worried about the future of Hastinapur. With his divine vision, he could see that the stage would soon be set for a war that would pit cousin against cousin, brother against brother, friend against friend. On one side would be the Duryodhana and his cronies, and on the other side, the Pandava brothers. Karna, Kunti's firstborn son, would take Duryodhana's side. Krishna, who was really Lord Vishnu, come in human form, Lord Vishnu being the god of preservation. He had been born on earth years before to rid the world of demons. He would be fighting alongside the Pandavas. His earthly father, Vasudeva, was Queen Kunti's brother, which made him their cousin. Uncle Vidur and the sages, Drona and Kripa, would get caught up in the conflict as well. Like all wars, this war would be complicated. And for complicated reasons, many good people, including grandfather Bhishma, would find themselves fighting on the wrong side, the side of evil. The battle is yet to come. So some takeaways. For modern yogis, this chapter of the story offers rich lessons in ethics, alignment, and self-awareness, specifically in the alliances that we make. Who is our family? So the first takeaway is that right relationships serve for alignment. Our relationships, be they families, mentors, or peers, are not about external approval or doing it right, but by social standards. Secondly, the complexity of attachment. Attachment shows up in the story in many forms. We've got Dhritarashtra's favoritism, Gandhari's blindfolded devotion, and Duryodhana's ambition. Thirdly, ethical and moral responsibility. Kunti's careful use of mantras in her more mature years demonstrates conscious choice, responsibility, and courage in the face of moral constraints. She has learned from her earlier lesson. Fourthly, the role of mentors and guidance. Bhishma, Krishna, the sages all guide the younger generation, but each must act according to their own understanding. 5, love, boundaries, and unconditional support. Pandavas grow in a nurturing environment, while the Kauravas struggle under indulgence and even manipulation. Karma, destiny, and choice. Number 6. Even with divine intervention, our characters face the consequences of their choices. Karna's loyalty, Duryodhana's greed, Arjuna's training. So let's take a quiet moment and settle, bringing our awareness to the breath. As you exhale, let go of judgment or social modern interpretation and any distraction. And consider the ways that the lessons from today's story touch your own life. How are you in right relationship? How is your alignment? Perhaps reflect on a current relationship with a family, friend, or even a colleague. Are your words, actions, and intentions aligned with your inner values? Where might you bring more honesty and integrity to your interactions? Secondly, the complexity of attachment. Notice the areas in your life where attachment influences your thoughts, emotions, or decisions. And how does holding on or clinging create tension? What boundaries or practices could help you love freely while maintaining your sense of self? This is what we call boundaries. Thirdly, ethical and moral responsibility. Recall a recent choice that perhaps felt challenging. How did you respond? Could you have acted with greater clarity or courage? Consider how you can practice conscious, dharmic decision making in small, everyday ways. And fourth, the role of mentors and guidance. Who supports your growth? And how do you integrate their wisdom with your own discernment? Reflect on how you balance the guidance and input from others with your own sense of personal insight, your inner truth, your knowing. 5, love, boundaries, and unconditional support. How do you express love in your life? Towards yourself? Others? Are there places where clearer boundaries could allow love to flow more fully, more freely, without compromising your values or your safety? And finally, karma, destiny, and choice. Recognize the power of choice in your own life, your agency. While you cannot control every circumstance, what action can you take today that aligns with your integrity and your dharma? How can you embrace the consequences of your choices with awareness and responsibility. Take a few deep breaths. Allow these reflections to settle. Imagine carrying the insights from this story into your daily life, cultivating alignment, clarity, and conscious action with every step you take, with every breath you breathe. Thank you for joining me today to explore this early chapter of the Mahabharata. We've met the Pandavas and the Kauravas, witnessed the unfolding of destiny, and seen how choices, attachments, and guidance shape the paths of these remarkable characters. If today's story sparked curiosity about how these ancient lessons connect to our modern lives, our relationships, our choices, and the ways we love, then I invite you to join me for Coach's Chat, where we will dive deeper into these lessons. Together, we'll explore practical insights from the story, reflect on alignment, boundaries, and conscious action, and discover ways to bring dharmic wisdom forth into everyday life. Come, ready to reflect, discuss, and practice. Your own story is waiting to meet the lessons of these timeless characters so that you can walk in alignment and greater ease. May you breathe deeply, move freely, labor lovingly, and live vibrantly. May you be well. Take care of you, take care of each other. This is yoga living. Namaste.